welcome to another episode of Good Luck High Five, episode 569.
That's right. You're listening to a podcast that's for you if you play Magic the Gathering, whether you have food poisoning or you don't.
I'm one of your food poison hosts, Maria.
I'm another one of your food poisoned hosts, Meghan.
And we are coming to you live despite the fact that we both had very tough weekends.
You know, sometimes you gotta barf.
Sometimes you do.
Sorry to kick off this podcast talking about barfing.
Look, it's just honesty. We come to you honesty first here on Good Luck High Five.
Very true.
And we are laying low this week. But we wanted to be here for you because we're closing out the year.
And do you know what's wild is you might assume, as some people did, that we would have been food poisoned
together
at the same situation.
Event. Yes.
But we were not.
No, completely separate.
I was 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
In Denver. I don't blame it on Denver. I have exonerated the city of Denver.
I'm not going to bring a suit against Denver.
Exactly. Denver, generally, real nice. Like it. I like it.
Great city, great mountains.
Yes, good place.
No, we don't blame Denver for what happened to us. But, you know.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And Maria,
yes.
Do you blame Minneapolis?
Minneapolis? No, I don't. I don't
nice.
blame Minneapolis. I can't pinpoint it, so... If I could, perhaps I would, but I can't, so I shan't.
But here we are.
Here we are.
And talk to you.
There's a lot to talk about, frankly.
There is.
Because we're coming out on the end of the year, and these are some of my favorite episodes to record of Good Luck High Five to celebrate
matter how your
everything.
Stomach is feeling.
Well, we're full of Gatorade and saltines right now.
Very true. Saltines. What a cracker.
Oh, I'm so glad they were invented.
Yeah, me too.
They were probably invented... Well, I was going to
specifically for being sick.
Well,
I
was going to say for the reason that graham crackers were invented, but you can Google that if you don't know why. And we'll talk about it on the adult version of this show. Good Luck High Five After Dark. But no, because it's the end of the year, we get to talk about kind of like what the year was like for us in Magic the Gathering and for all of you in Magic the Gathering. Next week will be our famous Crimbies episode, which will be the awards for the best and the worst of the year. You know, looking forward.
What? Crimby for worst in the year, spoiler alert, is going to go to Chris Cox.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
He gets just worst. Worst what? Just worst.
Just worst.
Worst of the year.
That's so true. We reported on the Upkeep this week about the layoffs at Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, which if you didn't hear, were very, very brutal. Coming here at the end of the year, 1,100 employees laid off across the company.
Absolutely disgusting.
Some of our favorite friends at Wizards, getting laid off.
Some really wonderful people making great stuff. The people who greenlit Baldur's Gate 3
Unreal.
All got laid off. And then you consider the fact that that's the reason why Hasbro made any money.
Well, for sure. Wizards is their profitable arm.
Yes, exactly. And yet they laid people off. And Chris Cox, in the meantime, made over $10 million this year.
And he's not announced any plans to take a pay cut, by the way, for that.
Of course not. Of course not.
I just want to say that's heinous.
And
you should feel bad.
Like, of course, I obviously cannot put myself in the mindset of this human being because it is so foreign to me.
He comes from Wizards of the Coast. That's what makes me even matter.
Well, they gave him a Hasbro because they thought that he was the reason why Wizards of the Coast was successful. And it turns out that he has nothing to do with it.
No.
It's the people who are actually doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are making it successful and not some magical CEO situation. No, that's a myth. It's always been a freaking myth.
The magical CEO is like the manic pixie dream girl.
Oh my God, yes. It's like a
CEO
it's like
dreams.
A film trope, except it's a business trope.
If only we had the best CEO who
only
will
we
pull
had
us
a
out of these
magical
doldrums.
CEO. One magical man is how we're going to turn a profit. Wrong.
No.
Anyways, we could go on about this for the full hour of this podcast.
Could.
But we're not going to.
We feel terrible about everybody who lost their job. They did not deserve it because they put in a banner year of work with record profits for Wizards of the Coast.
And also, just to clarify, when people are talking about these layoffs, if someone says to you, it would be like Wizards of the Coast would lay off employees, it's not them. It is Hasbro specifically.
Yeah. So two real bummer ways to start off this episode, but we had to talk about it.
Wow. But let's get into the festive spirit. Slap some glitter on this pig and let's go.
Oh, God. Slapping glitter on a pig. What an image, you know?
Yeah.
2023, what a year of magic. We're going to talk about the year of magic that was. And we're also going to invite a very special guest on the show to talk to us about the year in magic.
Ooh, yeah.
That is Judge Rob.
He's going to tell us about the most complicated cards of the year.
I love this segment, everybody. It's so fun to look back on the cards that made us go, what? Yeah. And made other people say, did you read the card?
Yes. And then be like, oh, did you actually, but then did you read it again?
Actually read the card?
Did you actually read the card?
And we're going to give you an update on our progress for Commander the Amateuring with us learning the Commander format. And we both are starting our little journeys into building 100 card decks. And I've already found that I may have made some mistakes and I'm not even a week in. So
great. You may have made some mistakes starting off with your Commander.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Very first piece
very
in place.
First pick. Wow.
Okay.
You know, that's all part of the amateuring process.
Exactly.
Here on the show. But before we do, hey, let's close out the year strong on Patreon. Yes. What do you say?
Oh man, we are, thanks to some wonderful new patrons and so increasing pledges. Thank you so much to everyone who's a patron, but especially to Aston, Marco, Alex, Jeff, and Braille Whale.
Yay! Thank you so much, friends.
Thank you so much. Aston, you're the last bastion of hope between us and food poisoning.
Hey, that's really good. Thank you, Aston.
Thank you, Aston. Marco, you should, give yourself a high five.
You should. Absolutely.
You're really keeping our spirits high at the end of the year.
Thank you, Marco.
Alex, us give you a high five.
Wait, you're making Marco high five themselves and we're giving Alex a high
sorry.
five?
I don't make the rules. I just make the puns.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yes. Jeff.
Oh,
boy.
Well, we've had other Jeffs this year so far. Jeff, you're the best.
No, Jeff deserves better. Jeff, you don't have to gaff how much we appreciate you. That's right. Jeff, you don't have to gaff how great you are. We're telling you. You're the best.
Because this Jeff spells it GEOFF.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great.
And Braille Whale, you know.
What a name. Well, I happen to know that this is our friend Nels. And
that's true.
And his friends donating to our show. So thank you, Nels and friends.
Nels, you know, let's put on our bells to celebrate. Braille Whale, there's no way we'll fail sailing into a new year.
Yeah! That was the best one of the year right there. And we're going to come sailing in on our yacht that's a log with a garbage can taped to it.
I still need, don't worry. If you are in line for an I helped, what is it? I gave Meghan and Maria yacht money, or I helped Meghan and Maria get arrested by the yacht police.
Yep.
Don't worry. Those shirts, I am working on how to put those shirts together.
And
they will be coming your way.
We have our oldest listener challenge, which we need to fulfill by the end of the year as well.
Yes.
Which goes to a listener.
50 or 59, I think is the current lines that we have.
That's the limit, everybody.
Yes.
So let us know if you think you're going to beat that.
All right.
Because you get a shirt too.
What a wrap up of the year.
Such a great year. Yeah. And we've got one more episode this year yet to get to you. So we missed no episodes this year. I just want to point that out.
Wow, we never miss an episode.
That's pretty great. A couple of years we did miss like one.
Once upon a time. That's so long ago.
But this year, full year, 365. How many weeks are in a year?
52.
52 weeks.
52, 365. 7.
Help us start off 2024 strong, everybody, by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/GLHF Magic. We would love to have you as a part of the family, give you a pun to close off the year. And just support the content creators that you love, because it's a tough world out there for podcasters, for people who work for Hasbro, which we don't, but we sometimes work as contractors for them. It's tough. So your support truly does help this show happen all 52 weeks of that year.
And if you're like, hey, why was Meghan just briefly spacing out right now? It's because I'm reading about the invention of the graham cracker, and it is bizarre. I can't stop reading about it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm thinking of. The graham cracker, right?
Yeah. It's it's very good.
We also want to say thank you to Card Kingdom. You can check them out on the interwebs over at cardkingdom.com/GLHF.
I know that many people on here are not arena players. And if you are not, then please, this holiday season, if you can, give yourself the gift of going to Card Kingdom, buying a box of Cons of Tarkir. I look to make sure that they had them.
Yeah.
And then drafting it.
Absolutely.
Because it is so good.
It's great.
It's so good. I was worried that it wouldn't live up to my memory of it, but it absolutely does.
The hype maintains.
It is so stellar. And Card Kingdom has those boxes in stock. So if you're not an arena person, you too can indulge in like the beautiful nostalgia of drafting Cons of Tarkir, because what a format.
What a fun holiday party for you and your friends.
It's so fun.
It is. I played in the Arena Open with Cons of Tarkir, which is also very fun. I think it's a little harder in sealed for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Because of the 5-color nature of the format. But draft, I think it excels. I think it's
so good.
I don't know how they got it so perfect.
Yeah.
But they really did.
They really did.
So thank you, Cons of Tarkir. Check them out at Card Kingdom. You can also order Ravnica Remastered right now.
Oh, that's true.
Over on Card Kingdom. They've got it ready to go when it releases on January 12th. So you can find that and more all over on cardkingdom.com/GLHF. All right, we're here with a very quick Commander the Amateuring update for you.
Yeah.
As promised last episode.
First, I'll just say mine, which is that thanks to, again, some people in our Discord,
yes,
I have landed on the commander that I will be initially trying to build, which is Narset Enlightened Master.
Why did you pick this Narset? There's so many Narsets.
Oh, because... listen to this. 3 blue, red, white for a 3/2 legendary creature, human monk, first strike, hexproof. That's a favorite word of yours.
I'm here for that.
Whenever Narset Enlightened Master attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-creature spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost.
That's very good.
I love it. The only thing that I have already identified as my weakness is that I need to do something besides just draw some cards.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, and what about this card draw spell? And what about this
I need to make sure that I have in mind some way I'm gonna win the game.
Well, you could mill yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then like have a
or just
like a
draw
lab maniac or whatever.
Yeah, draw your entire library, no max hand size.
We were just talking about Cons of Tarkir, and I've been playing the Goblin Slide deck, so maybe it's gonna be something along the lines of like making a bunch of tokens somehow.
Wow, empty the Cheons.
Exactly. Or like Talrand Sky Summoner, who makes 2/2s, like 2/2 Drakes with instant sorceries or something. So I feel like there's something like that in my future with, making some tokens when you cast instants and sorceries.
That's a great idea. I have also likewise been going down the rabbit hole on which commander to use.
Yes.
Because last week I said very confidently that it was Light Paws.
Yes.
And I even made it, I was ready to look into Light Paws. I found some decks. But then I made a poll because somebody else was like, what about Sithis Harvest Hand? And I was like, I do love Sithis. She's cheap. I like that about her. I like being able to cast your commander early in the game. And she never pays for dinner. And she gains you life and you draw cards every time you cast an enchantment, which I love. So I was like, ooh, I also kind of like Sithis. So I made a poll, and they were in a dead heat on Twitter for a long time until I went into our Discord and made the same poll. And then our patrons were like, hold up, Maria, slow your roll, because there's way more than just Light Paws or Sithis for you if you want to play an enchantments deck. And they gave me a ton of great ideas. They sent me to edhrec.com, which is a great website that gives you a ton of information about commander decks. And if you want to play enchantments, good news. Yeah. There's one in almost any single color combination you can imagine. Including many that I didn't even know existed, like this one that I've got my eye on, Uriel the Miststalker.
Yeah, I love this art. This guy is real spooky. For one.
It's creepy. This is a 5/5 for 2 red, green, white, which is Naya colors, which I often identify as a Naya player or a Naya human. A legendary creature beast, hexproof. Okay, great. Thumbs up. Uriel the Miststalker gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it.
Wow.
So he's like a little, core spirit dancer.
He a big core spirit dancer.
And he's hexproof, which I love. And you can Voltron him up and just go to town.
Yeah.
So Earl's now in the running.
All right.
Okay. But also, I'm not even done yet.
Wow. Okay.
Because I also liked this card. This is a new one. Elevere of the Wild Court.
Oh, all right.
2 green-white for a 4/4 legendary creature human knight. Whenever Elevere of the Wild Court enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. Whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
They also just look like they're having a great time with all these animals.
Yeah, it's a very cute card.
So many animal friends. They're very cute.
I like the incentive for attacking with a bunch of stuff because I really like to attack. And so that card specifically gives you an incentive to do so.
Yeah.
So really my question is like, do I want to do the little Sithis thing where I'm gaining life and drawing cards, which is, very up my alley. Like it reminds me of the SRAM deck that I love. Do I want to Voltron up Earl and like never die because he's like a boggle? Or do I want to be incentivized with a bunch of smaller creatures to attack so I can draw off of them?
Maria, here's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
You could put squirrels in the last one that you were talking about.
Oh, that would be cute too. Squirrels. Squirrels. That's another deck I could consider too. A squirrels deck.
Yeah.
It's a lot of tokens. But look, you can even sort by if you're like, I want to do a theme. What theme are you interested in? Auras. Yeah. And then it gives you the top commanders, of which it's Ariad of the Charmed Apple, actually, which I would never have guessed or thought of. And then they give you top cards to use in these. There's a bunch of deck lists sorted by their dollar amounts or however you want to sort them. Anyway, super interesting.
Very cool.
What theme would you say you're most interested in?
Drawing cards. Is that a theme? Is that a theme?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Drawing cards.
Drawing cards. I don't know. Maybe it is a theme. I'm sure Narset is great at drawing cards. Though,
I think that she is.
So we've got a basis here. I started to look up land based, which is something we can go into another episode because it's super complicated and interesting actually. Frank Karsten wrote a great article about it.
Of course he did.
Because of course he did. So now I've got to make a tough choice.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing more. I look forward to hearing about the time when instead of stepping backwards as you did between last week and this week.
Yeah.
You step forwards.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how I'm going to choose.
You must.
I must choose.
You will choose because you must.
Listeners, if you know which one I should choose, please send me a message and let me know because
Maria, you must make this decision for yourself.
No one else can make your first commander deck decision.
You must.
You must.
You must.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we'll find out, next week what happened. Hey everybody, we've got Judge Rob here. Welcome on the show again, Judge Rob.
Yeah.
I feel like you haven't left,
No, I don't really leave anymore.
We keep Rob trapped here in the studio. It's a gilded cage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's underneath that table that you put in out there.
Well, that's true.
It's a little tight. Like you sized it to you, which would have worked better if.
Yeah, that's true.
You came up to like here on me.
Well, I think we slide you lettuce through the bars every few hours for a meal.
like a guinea pig.
We are terrible people.
Like a guinea pig.
I don't think I put this together yet, but we might be the bad guys.
Have we unlawfully imprisoned Rob?
Wow. All right.
Well, we've broken him out of his cage here for this segment that we're calling the top 10 most confusing cards of the year.
It's true. I have 10 new confusing cards in this year, plus an honorable mention.
Ooh, excellent. Yeah, we had the segment last year, which was very fun.
Yeah, going through them and then sending them out to my judge friends and being like, do you have suggestions? They're like, this one. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that one.
I love it.
A segment that's not only fun, but also very merited.
Yeah.
Very
by the cards themselves.
This year was not quite as bad as last year, actually.
No, last year we had some real bangers of confusing
Ligrella
cards.
and Magpie and the six-sided cards.
Yes, that one was unreal.
They were both bad. So before we talk about that, though, I wanted to mention MagiKids.
Yes.
Wearing the shirt. And MagiKids this year has done a lot of work.
And you do a lot of work with MagiKids, which for people who don't know, what is that?
So MagiKids is a charity organization that provides kits to schools to do magic clubs. So a school teacher or an after-school person or somebody who's running a like a gathering at a Boys and Girls Club or something will come to MagiKids site and say, hey, I've got this group of, a dozen or 15 or 50 kids. Can you send me a kit? And MagiKids puts kits together with Wizards of the Coast, with Card Kingdom, and with other partners. Ultra Pro provides some amount of product to them, or like sleeves and deck boxes and stuff too. And then they ship these out for free to the schools. They don't pay anything.
Yeah, it's a great program, and we've been back in paper playing a lot of tournaments this year. We just had DreamHack this past weekend, which MagiKids was at, teaching people how to play, and it's just kind of like a neat way to look at kind of how the year went, because we've been in so much, we've had such a great return to paper play that we're able to do these events and have MagiKids there teaching people.
And the ramp up to paper play, MagiKids was at doing Learn to Play. They did every DreamHack this year. So all of the ones that had regional championships. They went to Gen Con, they went to CubeCon, hung out in Cubed with some Wizards employees, like Masato Toro was there and hung out with Jason. And they were at every US MagicCon as well. And so they had a booth there. They were packed at all of these.
Excellent.
At all the MagicCons, I'd go up there and be like, I can't even find space to sit. This is great. And so they did Learn to Play, and they did a bunch of Oathbreaker, which is the format that everybody in Rochester that's associated with MagiKids plays.
That's Rochester, Minnesota.
Yes. Yeah, Rochester, Minnesota. the more medically inclined Rochester.
The Rochester you want to go to if you need to be hospitalized.
You don't want to go to New York, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's true. And so overall this year, though, MagiKids got together with Wizards as part of the Hasbro Day of Giving, and they did 500. They built 577 of these kits in a day.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And so they got together. It was a huge undertaking. And the kits this year, so overall, they've gone out to over 2,000 different educators, teachers, local community organizers that work with kids. We've covered over 100,000 kids. All 50 states have gotten kits. The average club size is 43 kids.
Wow,
which is
great.
huge.
Yeah.
So I started with some low numbers, but they're pretty substantial.
And sorry to interrupt you, Rob, but I just got to say, I see all the time people on Twitter or whatever asking, what do I do with my bulk? And the answer is, we're sitting here telling you can donate it to MagiKids. It's a great organization that does a great thing teaching kids how to play Magic and learning social skills through that.
Yeah.
So donate to MagiKids, okay?
I am better at math and reading because I play Magic.
Absolutely better at math. No question.
This year, the kits went out to at least 30 clubs a week, basically every week. So it's over 1,500 kits that went out. 91% of the ones that went out this year went to new programs.
Ooh, awesome.
So that is reaching more people.
Well, that's fabulous. Yeah. Thank you for the update, Rob. We love MagiKids on the show, and I wanted to know what they were up to this year, and it's great to know so many kids are getting these cards.
It's been a busy year.
I let some friends know about this, one of whom, it turns out, was just this year put in charge of her school's Magic Club and was like, what do I do? And ordered a kit and was like, it was great. Like,
that's awesome.
So, like, the kids were
excited. Was she like put this in charge of this, just like appointed, like, you will do this? And she's like, oh no.
And she was like,
Well, we've got good news for you.
Exactly. So if you are appointed to a club.
or you're just involved with, everybody is either involved with or has a friend with that's involved with a school system in some way, I find.
Yeah.
Because it's just
true.
Yeah, it's the nature of life. And so I've talked to a bunch of people and been like, look, come to the contact site, magickids.org, and there's a contact us form, and it lets you request the kit. And it has not just the cards and stuff, but educational materials.
Yeah.
Because I assume that they found the educational materials pretty helpful in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it.
She had to learn to play along with the kids.
Which is, you don't actually need to know Magic to do this either because of that.
It helps you.
Yeah, it helps, but it's not necessary.
So that's our MagiKids update for 2023.
Yeah.
And now let's turn to the most confusing cards of 2023.
Yeah. So I focused on standard cards this year, mostly because I didn't want to read every card in the Doctor Who decks for a fifth time.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, every time they're good, they're fun, they're really interesting, great decks and cards, but also I don't want to think about the time travel mechanic. So I have one honorable mention of a non-standard card, which is the One Ring. And
Rob, are these in order from least to most confusing?
Generally,
okay,
there's some froth in there a little bit, depending on how unhappy I am with the card from questions that I've gotten. But yeah, so my honorable mention is the One Ring. We've all seen it. Legendary artifact, costs 4 mana.
We've all seen it. We know what it is.
Yeah. The big thing that it has going for it is it says when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, You gain protection from everything until your next turn. Giving players protection, it turns out to be weird. We don't do that very much.
Yeah.
And this doesn't remind you what protection does on the card.
No.
There's no room
certainly
for
not.
that.
No room.
Certainly not in Dark Elvish or whatever the one of One Ring was.
Yeah, no. And so reminder text in Elvish would be, I would be over the moon if they printed a reminder text in Elvish. That would actually be, I would actually try to find an Elvish card with
I don't
reminder
think it was
text.
Elvish. It was like Dark Lord Sauron speak or something.
It's the dark speech or
dark
Sauron's,
speech, that's right.
Sauron's speech. But so the big deal with the protection is that people don't realize that protection is a prevention effect. So cards like Stomp, the adventure from Bonecrusher Giant or Questing Beast, say that damage can't be prevented, which means they can get around protection, which people will be like, this card's bugged on, and when they get got by one of these. They also don't realize they can't target themselves because it gives you protection from everything, not just your opponent's stuff.
Oh, yeah,
So
of course.
I had to point this out during the top 8 of a modern event that I was running for Nerd Rage. I was like, you cast the One Ring, you said trigger, your opponent agreed, you both agreed that it resolved, and then you cast Endurance and tried to target yourself with the Endurance trigger. You can't do that. And they're like, but I have no cards in my library. And I'm like, I guess we go to game 3.
Protection goes all ways as far as One Ring is concerned.
Yeah, because it's not an effect that we do very much, and so people don't remember all of the contours of protection, especially on a player. It's just weird.
I mean, it is tough. I'm trying to remember the last time I had to think about protection. I think it was an aura that granted you certain protections.
Yeah. And there's a mnemonic DEBT, which is accurate enough for most circumstances. It prevents damage, enchanting, equipping, blocking, and targeting.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's not strictly true, but it's close enough that you can remember what's going on.
Coming in at number 10.
Number 10, Godric, the Cloaked Reveler. He's red 1. He's a 3/3. He's a human noble with haste, and he has Celebration. As long as 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Godric Cloaked Reveler is a dragon with base power and toughness 4/4, flying, and red, dragons you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. It loses all other creature types. It lets you know. The human noble gets wiped out. The problem with Godric is the layering and timestamp system in Magic, and we're going to come back to this over and over. Oh God,
you said layering and timestamp, and I already knew it was going to be a problem.
So Godric comes out, and then your opponent puts a cursed roll on it, because there's a lot of ways to put a cursed roll in this limited format.
That's true.
And what the cursed roll came out after Godric, which means it has a newer timestamp.
We can all agree on that.
Yep. And so then Godric, his celebration will happen. We'll go to the other player's turn. They'll be like, I'm going to play a mouse and make a mouse token. And then Godric will, his static ability, because this isn't a trigger.
Yeah.
He's, as long as celebration has happened, he tries to do this thing. But his timestamp, the timestamp of his celebration static ability is based on when he entered the battlefield, which means it has an earlier timestamp than Cursed Roll that came out after him to go on.
Yeah.
Which means that he won't be a 4/4. He'll still be a 1/1. Because the later timestamp from the Cursed Roll overwrites this ability, even though this ability like happened later, or you think it does, it's timestamped with him, which is before the Cursed Roll.
What?
That is bizarre. That's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
I hate it.
But he does have flying, right?
Yeah, he'll have flying.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, because Cursed Roll doesn't remove abilities, so I'll just set power and toughness. So he'll still be a dragon, he'll still have flying, he'll still have the ability to fire breathe all your dragons, but he'll be a 1/1.
So weird.
Amazing.
It's very strange.
Great.
This is I would have made this a trigger because that's a very annoying effect. But the difference with it being a trigger is this is as soon as a permanents come out, he just turns on. You don't have to click through a trigger on Arena, which is better gameplay.
Yeah,
I guess, but that is so counterintuitive.
It's very counterintuitive.
Weird. Godric, congratulations, you're number 10.
Number 9, Amalia Benavides
Aguirre.
Aguirre? Okay, thank you. So Amalia here, she's
the star of the last weekend, I want to say.
Well, and that's actually part of my problem with her. This is a tournament rules problem, actually. So Amalia is a legendary creature, vampire scout. She's a 2/2. She costs black/white. Whenever she has ward, pay 3 life. We don't care about any of that. Whenever you gain life, Amalia explores. Then destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20.
Okay.
And so you mentioned that she was the star of this last weekend, pioneer in the regional championships.
Correct.
With Wild Growth Walker. Yes. And so the interaction with Wild Growth Walker says, whenever you explore, you gain some life. It does some other things. We don't actually care about anything else but Wild Growth Walker.
It's a 1/3.
It's a 1/3. It like puts counters on itself. It's dead at the end of this combo. So you don't actually care what it does, except that it gains you life. So these go back and forth. It's not optional. Once you start gaining life or exploring, you start climbing up.
You can't stop.
You cannot stop.
Amazing.
You're not allowed to. Amalia is an optional, and Wild Growth Walker is an optional. Wild Growth Walker says when you explore, gain life. Amalia says when you gain life, explore. Okay, so you climb up to 20. You can't stop yourself, and then Amalia kills all your stuff.
Yeah.
But what happens if you skip 20?
What do you mean?
It goes on forever and ever.
Yeah, my opponent giant growths Amalia when she's at 18, so she goes straight to 21.
Oh.
Because it says if her power is
Exactly
20.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She should say 20 or greater.
She explores until you're...
No, here's the problem. This is a loop of non-optional actions, which in the rules is a draw. However, what the rules don't anticipate is that there might be cards involved in the loop that don't matter to the loop. The tournament rules don't really support this, and there's differing interpretations of them. I had one interpretation, a bunch of other judges agreed with me. The eventual policy statement from the RC's head judge, though, was in agreement with Wizards and in agreement with Toby Elliott, who writes policy, was that here's the deal with exploring with Amalia.
Continue.
When you explore with Amalia, you'll do the explore action, which is you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land, then you'll put a counter on her. If it's a land, you'll go to your hand. If it's not a land, you'll put a counter on her. This is even true if you don't have any cards left in your library. You can explore with no cards in your library.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It just doesn't do anything most of the time. There's a whole bunch of like sections of rulings and stuff on exploring with no cards. It doesn't come up that often.
I guess I never even
this
knew.
loop will happen even if you have no cards left.
Well, what happens though if you explore into nothing? That's neither a land or...
You get a counter.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, because it's land and then other. Right? That's the...
Yeah, you're right.
So it continues to count up. And even if it didn't put counters on, then you would still gain life from Wild Growth Walker, which would trigger her again.
Yes.
So the question is, that card, do you have to mill it if it's a non-land? Because it's optional, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether or not it's on there for whether or not the loop continues. Counter or not, you're getting life from this because you explored.
Oh my God.
So
this is a policy problem because the loop rules do not anticipate a mandatory loop that has cards that don't matter in the middle of it, but that you might have to make choices about.
Wow, rude.
Yeah.
And so
Amazing.
My take, which was the incorrect take, by the way, was that that card doesn't matter. We don't care about it. They can decide to leave that card on top forever. It's a loop of mandatory actions. Changing that card or not doesn't break it. This is not the ruling that was made. The ruling that was made was Wizards wants you to mill. This will be updated in a future policy update. And so at the RC, you were forced to mill out. And the reason that this is relevant is because your opponent might have a fatal push. So they might giant growth your Amalia, let you mill your whole library, and then fatal push her. That's what the opponents want to do.
Sure.
And so that was what the policy was for this event. It was announced in an email to all the RC competitors.
So they knew about it before they came to the
they knew about this Wednesday before the RC.
Okay.
So it was announced to all the RC competitors. Everybody's on the same playing field for it. I'm just frustrated that policy didn't anticipate this and that this card doesn't say greater than or equal to 20.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that would have solved this issue.
Yes.
Wow, I can't believe this is only number 9.
Well, it's because it's tournament policy. Like the rules support this perfectly fine. And so this is this is a narrow tournament case for one tournament.
That's very funny how people found a way to get around it, though. I do have to say.
Yeah, love it.
Well, it's what they want. It's what the players that aren't playing Amalia want. They want to be able to interact with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are playing Amalia and they're playing Giant Growth and Fatal Push themselves and whatever. So number 8, Vraska, Betrayal Sting.
Vrasky.
I'm going to skip past all this stuff except that what matters, because she's like a completed Planeswalker. We could talk about that. But what I care about is her -2. Her -2 says target creature becomes a treasure artifact. With tap and sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and loses all other card types and abilities.
Yeah. She make a trish.
Yep. She makes your creature into a treasure. We're going to go back to layers again. So I had this come up in limited. The object gets these characteristics written onto it. It loses abilities. It gets this. It doesn't change the name. It doesn't stop being legendary if it was. because it loses all of the card types, but legendary is a super type.
I see.
So if it's legendary, you'll have a legendary artifact treasure with the name unchanged because Vraska doesn't touch the name. And so the Mycosynth Gardens is a land that can copy a non-token artifact you control.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't stop being a non-token if Vraska makes it a treasure. So if you copy the thing that she turned into a treasure, you get the base characteristics of the object.
Okay.
Which lets you like steal things out from underneath Vraska is locked down. Because you can Mycosynth Gardens to turn into a copy of your treasured card.
Weird.
But it's your card.
It's your card.
Amazing.
And so you could like on their end step activate Mycosynth Gardens, turn into a thing, and then attack with your what is it? The new Phyrexian Negator, Phyrexian Obliterator, or not Phyrexian Obliterator, Phyrexian
big guy.
Yeah, the white one.
Yeah.
Which has flying and gets to kill Vraska like a champ.
Yeah.
When I say this came up in limited, it came up during early access streamer event for me, actually.
I feel like I remember you telling this story on the show.
I mentioned this before. It is not obvious that you can do this.
That's
you have
so
to have
weird.
a really deep knowledge of like what copy effects do. My opponent just like paused for a little bit.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like, yeah,
what is going on?
I get it.
Yes,
like
it happened.
It happened. At 5 flying.
Wow.
Number 7. Ohur Pakpatik, Deepest Epoch. So this is one of the gods, and it is blue 2 for a 4/3 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains rebound, which you'll exile that as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast it from exile without paying its mana cost. And when Ohur dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control with 3-time counters on it. We're going to put that one in the queue for later. But the first ability, the rebound,
Yeah.
you can give adventures that are instants rebound this way. So Virtue of Loyalty has an adventure that is an instant on.
Yes, it does.
Which is not obvious what happens here to most people. Because and also, so there's 2 questions. There's the straightforward, like, the first time I've ever seen it, well, one of these is exiling, do I get to pick? And the answer is yes. And then the second tier, like, I'm a deep judge question, which is, wait, is rebound not a self-replacement ability? Is adventure not a self-replacement ability? And the answer is neither of them are, so you get to pick. Self-replacement effects have to be applied before other replacement effects.
Yeah, if you're replacing yourself, you really got to think about it. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Yeah.
And so you get to pick if it's going to be exiled to adventure. If it's going to be exiled to adventure, then you'll be able to cast the Virtue of Loyalty later. But you won't get the rebound effect. If you rebound it, you won't be able to cast the adventure half. But when it comes off of rebound, you can pick which half you're casting. So you could make another night and send it back to Adventureland, or you can just make your 5-cost enchantment.
Oh wow,
That seems okay.
It's very cool, actually. It's very
That seems
powerful.
all right.
This is actually a cool enough thing that like I wouldn't mind playing this in a standard deck. Like it seems like a very nifty interaction.
Yeah.
But it's completely not obvious. Arena handles it just fine. Which is not the case for everything that has come up for new rules this year. But
excellent.
Great.
6, Lazotep Convert, which is the backside of Invasion of Amonkhet. And I actually got this wrong during my rules show.
Oh, do you want to quiz? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lazotep Convert, it's a 4/4. It's the backside of a battle, so it doesn't have a cost. When you may have Lazotep Convert enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except it's a 4/4 black zombie in addition to its other types. So the thing that this has going on is, once again, layers. This puts a copy in the copy layer. It writes all this stuff on it. It's a 4/4 black zombie, and the Lazotep Convert that entered doesn't get other things from that. It's named Lazotep Convert, or it's not. It's named whatever the thing is. It isn't named Lazotep Convert. It's a copy of that thing, except that it overwrites those components. If that thing can transform, so there's the creatures with the activated ability that transform them in place.
Yeah.
They would transform to a different creature, and then they would stay Lazotep Converts.
Okay.
Because the Lazotep Convert copy effect was applying on top of they remain 4/4 black zombies. You wouldn't be able to upgrade them into something else by transforming them. And it was a copy of that original creature, and so it actually wouldn't get the new abilities that were on the backside either, because the copy effect would overwrite it with the abilities from the front side.
Gotcha.
It's very weird.
Sorry, my brain just bled out my ears. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you want an example creature?
Yeah, like give me an example.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the this is March the Machine, right?
Mom. Rob's using Scryfall like a boss over here.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
With very cool, like,
So if you had
shorthand.
something like, let's pick a simple one of them. There's
simple cards aren't printed anymore, Rob. Don't
know.
be silly.
Captive Weird, which is a 1/3 for single blue. It's Defender, and for Phyrexian red and 3, transform it. Activate only as a sorcery.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you'd have a Captive Weird in the graveyard. You'd copy it with Lazartep Comfort. It would be a 4/4 black zombie.
Yes.
There would be a Captive Weird. And so then you activate the Captive Weird, and it would transform. And so it would be Completed Conjurer, which is the backside of this. But the problem is that the Lazartep Convert's copy effect is still on there. It didn't stop being that object.
Still the same game object.
Yeah, it's the same game object. And so it remembers, I'm a copy of Captive Weird.
Yeah.
And so it'd keep all of the Captive Weird front components, and then it wouldn't gain any of the back components. You could transform it as many times as you want, and it would
be like,
it would change its status. It'd be like, I'm still a Captive Weird.
Hey, I'm a Captive Weird.
So it wouldn't have the
Wow.
text on the back.
Right. It wouldn't have the text. You would turn it over to transform it, and then it would overwrite it with the whole Captive Weird front.
Weird.
Except there'd be a 4/4 black zombie.
Very weird.
Holy cow. That's
Love it.
bizarre.
And then they printed these gods that transform in a weird way. So you remember Ohir Papatik right above him?
Yeah.
So if Lazartep Convert becomes a copy of Ohir Papatik,
Yeah.
when this Lazartep copy dies, it will return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control, because it had that ability when it was on the battlefield. And it'll return as a Lazartep Convert, because that's the B-side, and then it gets to copy something in a graveyard,
Wow.
which could be Ohir Papatik again.
Wow.
That's
okay.
great.
Transform cards are very strange
Oh
sometimes.
my God. That was a long way to get there, but we got
Yep.
there, Rob.
Yep.
If that was 6, oh no, I don't know if I can handle 5.
The Roaming Throne. Roaming Throne is a 4-cost artifact. It's an artifact creature golem. It has Ward 2. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So the triggers an additional time is not something that comes up a ton. It came up notably in the last year on like 3 cards, though. Drivnod, Carnage Dominus, and Elshnorn, Mother of Machines, or other ones. But Roaming Throne lets you just apply it to any triggers. Those ones are specifically like ETB triggers or dice triggers. Roaming Throne is any trigger. And so there's a lot of triggers that say this triggers only once each turn. And I've actually gotten this question a number of times, which is, well, which wins? I'm like, well, the trigger's only once each turn wins. It can't trigger an additional time. It already triggered once. And so, but that isn't obvious from those cards.
Yeah, so if something says it triggers only once,
Yeah.
their question is, does this override
Yeah,
that?
does this give it a second trigger even though it says it can trigger only once? And the answer is no, because it can only trigger once, and Roaming Throne is actually making it trigger twice.
But it can.
But it can't. Can't beats can't.
Can't beats can.
Yep. I've also had the question from people who have to reread the card, and I get this. I had to read this card 3 times too. If a triggered ability of another creature you control, the chosen type triggers. Ward is a triggered ability.
Yes.
So if it didn't say another, it would trigger Ward 2 twice. If you have creatures with Ward, they're good things to name with Roaming Throne because you double their Ward.
That's
All right.
cool.
Yeah, it's very
sick.
cool.
All right.
But you need a second Roaming Throne, and then the 2 Roaming Thrones would see each other if you pick the same creature type for them.
Oh, no.
Because they are it's the chosen type. And so then they would each have Ward 2 twice, which is kind of like Ward 4, but more annoying to click through.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's fun.
That one just requires a lot of rereading for people because it's got a lot of and I've had I've had both of these questions like multiple times. So, Invasion of Alara.
Number 4.
Yeah, number 4. I personally don't like this card very much because it has 100 words and all of them matter. And the order that they're in matters too, which is very frustrating.
Oh boy.
If I have 100 words, I prefer about 50 of them not to really matter, you know?
Yeah.
The other
Yeah,
50,
some of them
fine.
don't matter. The Invasion of Alara is all colors, doesn't actually matter. So Invasion of Alara. White, blue, black, red, green, battle siege, starts at 7 defense. When it enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top card of your library until you exile 2 non-land cards with mana value 4 or less. You may cast one of those 2 cards without paying its mana cost. Put one of them into your hand. Then put the other cards exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now this first front face, the question that I have, there's a put one of them into your hand. And I think we talked about this during the pre-release too, and I kept getting this. It's like, this card doesn't make any sense. What does that them refer to?
One of the cards that you exiled.
One of the whole set, or one of the 2?
One of the 2.
One of the 2 that have mana value 4 or less. Yes.
I remember you talking about this.
And this is very difficult to parse out. What they want you to do is you reveal 2 cards. You may cast one. You have to draw one. And then if you didn't cast the one, it's gonna get put on the bottom. You're only gonna get to draw 1 card. Is what they want to do. They could have said put the other, but if you didn't cast the card because you weren't allowed to cast it or you elected not to, then maybe you should put both of them in your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not actually that unreasonable for a 5-cost card, but they didn't do it that way. And the other doesn't make any sense because you might not have cast one of the cards.
You're right.
Yep. And so then on the backside, though, when you defeat this, it turns into Awaken the Maelstrom, which is annoying in other ways. So Awaken the Maelstrom is all colors. It's a sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Create a token that's a copy of a permanent you control. Distribute 3+1/+1 counters amongst 1, 2, or 3 creatures you control, and destroy target permanent an opponent controls.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, it does 5 things. Oh. Well, this is thematically, this is the 5 shards. The 5 shards each do 1 thing each in a particular order because that's the way that they want them to matter. But really weirdly, you make 2 choices. The choices are not listed in the order that you make them on this card. And I had people that were like, can I do this thing? And I'm like, yes. And then I do this other thing? No. Because you target first for both of the targets. So the first thing, the target player draws 2 cards and destroy target permanent.
Me.
Yeah. So you'll draw 2 cards.
Yep.
You'll target a permanent I control. Even though it's listed 5th.
Really?
Yes, because targets always happen as part of casting the spell. The rest of it happens on resolution.
Oh boy.
that's nonsense. It should be in the right order.
Yeah, or they could have just moved the destroy target permanent up to the front. They don't need to, the rest of the order matters. It could be target player draws 2 cards, destroy target permanent
Megan's
opponent controls.
dead over there.
Why? We're on what? We're on 4.
This is only 4.
This is only 4. And so the other thing is that you can put an artifact card out and then copy it, which that makes sense, and that's what you want to be able to do.
Yes.
And then if it's an artifact creature, you can put like counters on that thing.
Okay.
Right away.
Okay.
But that all makes sense. Those all make sense. The target up front, target at the end, but that's not the way that you play the card is very annoying.
Yes.
Oh, I agree. Yucko.
3, Bloodletter of Alcazotz. Alcazotz. Sorry, I can't letter today. So this is a 2/4 vampire demon for black, and 2.
And he is very cute.
Is he?
It looks like an owl face on a bat body.
Sure.
Fair.
Is that its face up there?
Yeah.
I think so.
It's carrying a morning star with an extra spiky end that doesn't make any sense, but that's fine because it can fly.
Yeah. Anyways, someone played this against me and...
Yeah. It's very good. It's a 2/4 flyer.
It is quite good.
If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. And it reminds you, damage causes loss of life.
Why?
Because damage isn't losing life though. Damage causes it. So if I attack you, somehow I give this lifelink. So there's plenty of ways in the set to get this lifelink.
Okay, sure. Yep.
I attack you with this lifelinking 2/4 flyer.
Okay.
And you let it through.
Yep.
And it deals you some amount of damage and I gain some amount of life. What are those numbers?
Well, 2.
4 and 2.
And 2.
Yeah. 4 and 2.
Because it doubles the life loss, but it doesn't double the damage, so you don't double the life link.
Correct.
What?
Yep.
Why?
Because the damage is what determines how much lifelink is there. Losing life doesn't determine whether or not you gain life from lifelink. The amount of damage dealt does. Only 2 damage was dealt.
Wow.
Wow.
I know this because I've played a lot of Platinum Empyrean where my opponent's like, I'm going to make a life-linking flyer and attack you with it. And I'm like, my life total can't change. You still dealt me damage. So they still gain their life.
Guess. Yeah.
So the damage processing happens in particular steps with particular results.
I'm damage processing right now.
Yeah, that's fair. The other question that I've gotten is whether or not 2 copies of this will stack the way that you want them to, whether or not they'll be multiplicative, which they will be. 2 doubles to 4 doubles to 8.
Nice.
Because you double the loss of life, and the second one can still double the loss of life, and so it doubles the doubling.
Yeah.
Which is quite good.
Okay.
But
let me tell you, having played against it, 1 copy is already
one copy is very good.
1 copy, gonna get the job done.
The other thing is that in Commander, you have the same lifelink problem where the Commander damages damage that then causes higher loss of life. So if I attack you with a 5/5 Commander and hit you for 5, that's 5 Commander damage and 10 life loss.
Great. Why not?
Yeah.
Weird.
Very weird. Welcome to the Arcana section of Magic Rules. I don't know why this card is printed like it is. So number 2, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, the big breakout artifact from Wilds of Eldraine.
Megan thinks this is the year of the artifact. Would you agree?
I think that's so. I don't think it's the year that has had the most powerful artifacts printed.
But it is the year of the artifact.
Yeah.
See?
It might have had the most artifacts printed, especially if you count tokens.
That's what I'm saying. And the year in which you were most likely to play them in like draft formats.
Yeah. And so you're most likely to have a bunch of garbage artifacts out because the formats have been food heavy, clue heavy, like
but even just I'm talking about Tithing Blade and there's like so many artifacts that you actually play, wherein I feel like in earlier formats this was a whole other conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry I brought it into this.
No, it makes
keep it in its place.
This is the there are definitely 2 artifact sets that are more powerful. 3 artifact sets that are more powerful. 3 artifact blocks that are more powerful than this here. But
the general baseline non-artifact centric set.
Yeah. How many artifacts you end up without. Yeah. I can buy that.
All right. Agatha and her cauldron.
Back to Agatha and her cauldron.
Yeah.
So this is a 2-mana legendary artifact. It says you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Don't care. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters of them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
Ooh, I smell a problem coming.
Yeah, no, you got it? You remember that timestamp problem?
Yeah.
So Agatha's tricks you because the next ability is exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So the trick is, so if you have a creature and your opponent removes all abilities from it, there's a number of ways to do so, including the number 1 card, which is next. It depends on the timestamp of when Agatha's Soul Cauldron entered the battlefield versus the timestamp of the ability adding and removing effect. So if your opponent has a 2/2 that starts with no abilities, and you remove the abilities from it, then they play the Soul Cauldron, and they exile a creature card with an activated ability from the graveyard. The Soul Cauldron came after the ability adding and removing, so it'll grant an ability. But if the cauldron was out before you remove the abilities, then the cauldron's effect is first. And so the removing removes whatever abilities the cauldron grants, even though you exiled a new thing to the cauldron and you put a new counter on that creature. But the timestamp is based on when the Soul Cauldron entered the battlefield.
Oh, no.
So, okay.
I don't know what else to say.
We're going to boil this down to the very simplest version of this. So let's say that I have an ability that says enchanted creature is 1/1. And you have a thing that says enchanted creature is a 4/4. The later one should win, should overwrite the other one, right? That's just the very basic. And that's based on when they come out. That's whenever you apply the thing. But timestamps are based on when the thing comes out. If you have an enchantment that says all creatures you control are 4/4s, and I play an enchantment that says enchanted creature's a 1/1, if your creature came first, you want mine to overwrite yours.
Yeah.
Agatha's Soul Cauldron has these tricky other things, but it doesn't matter. That creatures you control with +1/+1 counters in them ability is based on when Agatha's Soul Cauldron entered the battlefield.
Okay.
Even though you do other stuff to determine what set of stuff, because if you animate a creature, if you play a creature later, It still should be based on when the Soul Cauldron entered the battlefield.
I'm fine.
So this is Godric, except with a lot of tricks.
Wow.
I'm fine.
You're fine with that?
I'm fine.
You're fine?
I'm fine.
Yeah. This is very
fine.
like, in addition to the fact that this grants you activated abilities that shouldn't exist together on the same card.
I went
like
through a lot
those
of
are all
emotions.
complicated.
You did.
Yeah.
There's a whole journey
Yeah.
over there on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
But I arrived at being fine.
Like this is the complicated stuff. Agatha's Soul Cauldron's like the stuff that it does that you want it to do is also complicated. Like you can grant it the ability to add -1/-1 counters to your creature, and then you have to determine if a -1/- or a +1/+1 cancels. It does all sorts of things in all sorts of formats. It grants you multiple abilities that come from different sources that don't behave well together. Like those are all complicated. This is the one that's very annoying because Dress Down and this don't talk in a sensible way. Or my next card, number 1, Tashana's Tidebinder.
I'm trying to steal my stuff.
afraid.
I'm trying to steal
All
myself
right, let's go.
Tashana's Tidebinder, blue and 2 for a creature. It's a Merfolk Wizard. It's a 3/2 with Flash. This card's incredible before I get to any of the text.
Yeah.
Like it's a 3/2 with Flash for 3 with a relevant creature type. 2 relevant creature types, in fact.
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tashana's Tidebinder remains on the battlefield.
I've tidebound somebody before.
It's very good.
I've never looked at this card and I don't want to again.
That's fair. I've watched people do all sorts of incredibly fun and cool things with it. Like I watched somebody try to get their opponent with a Cauldron Complete in the middle of combat with Sigarda's Aid's instant equip, or not Sigarda's Aid. There's an instant equip enchantment, and that Hammer plays, and they were like, "I want to move this," and the opponent's like, "Nah, I want to counter your equip ability." Removes the abilities from it. No longer use your Germ 5/5. It was very bad for the other player, but. These are like the basic cases are a little bit complicated because they have to figure out, does this Germ lose the 5/5? Yes, it does, because that lost its ability, so it doesn't grant this anymore. But it does some weird stuff. If you have a creature with a triggered ability and also a power toughness setting ability. So like Tarmogoyf has an ability that sets its power and toughness.
Sure.
And Tashana's Tidebinder counters the other ability. It doesn't give them a new power toughness setting ability. It just wipes it out. Which means if you give Tarmogoyf an activated or triggered ability and Tidebound that, then it would end up as a 0/1 because that's what's printed in the corner of Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Great.
Relevant because there's a creature like this in the set, in Wilds of Eldraine.
Yes.
That is a star +1. This also has a duration that could never start. Which is just something that doesn't come up very much. But
what do you mean?
As long as Tashana's Tidebinder remains on the battlefield, is a duration. But that wouldn't start until the triggered ability resolves. So if I flash Tashana's Tidebinder, counter your activated ability, and you kill the Tidebinder in response to my Tashana's Tidebinder trigger, then it won't ever remove the abilities from your thing. It won't stop having abilities and it won't regain them. The duration never starts. Because that
makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yes.
That's just a little strange, and it doesn't come up that much. And it counters unusual things, including it can do in standard. It can counter the triggered ability of a Saga.
Ooh.
Now, Sagas, when you add a counter, they trigger, and then you can counter it with a Tidebinder. Well, Sagas aren't artifacts, creatures, or planeswalkers usually, and so it doesn't remove their ability.
Okay.
But have you heard of the card Abila's Awakening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
It reanimates a Saga into a creature sometimes.
All right.
Which makes it a creature.
And now
Tashana's Tidebinder can get rid of its ability.
Wow.
And so when you get rid of Saga's ability, what happens? It has a counter on it. It had a counter added because it entered the battlefield. Abila's Awakening reanimated your 3 blind mice or whatever. And so Tashana's Tidebinder counters the ability to make a mouse token. It's a creature. It loses its abilities. What
is it?
Yeah. What do you assume is going to happen to this Saga?
It just is there.
It's just there doing nothing.
Just there.
No, it dies.
What?
So it's a Saga. It didn't remove the types, so it's still type Saga. It has no chapter abilities and one.
And if it doesn't have any counters on it, then
it has a counter on it, which is greater than the highest chapter number it has, which is 0, and so it dies.
Because you can't have a counter on it with greater than the number of chapters.
Correct. if a saga has 4 chapters and 5 counters on it somehow, because you proliferate it, like had a double proliferate card, it'll die, right?
Because it thinks now I'm done. Now I go to the graveyard.
I have greater than or equal to the number of chapters. I lost all my chapters.
Wow.
Therefore, I have this counter on me.
Therefore, I'm dead. Well, logically, I must be dead.
Therefore, I am dead.
Yep.
Interesting.
And so Tishana's
Logic got him in the end.
Yep. And so Tishana's Tidebinder will interact with a bunch of these cards in here in very questionable and weird ways.
Amazing.
It can counter stuff that we normally don't counter. Like we do. There are cards running around. There's Void Slime, there's Stifle that counter things. But normally these cards aren't very good. Like Void Slime costs 3 mana to counter anything. And Disallowed did the same thing, I think. Blue, 1. And they're fine. Tishana's Tidebinder leaves behind a 3/2, so you just play it all the time if you can.
Yeah.
Like, just it counters all sorts of stuff that you shouldn't normally counter. Turns off like triggers that don't normally apply. Can turn off abilities. You can do things like they activate their creature land, they attack with it and trigger it in combat, and you're like, wipe out its abilities.
Wow.
Because you'll hit their combat trigger and it's a creature.
Yeah.
What if you do it while they're attacking with it? Then what does it? Then what happened to it? Is it still
stops
attacking?
being a creature.
But if
So
it's
it
not
falls
a
out of
creature, it
combat.
can't attack,
Yeah, it
right?
can't be in combat anymore. And now it permanently has no abilities. Even though the is a creature wears off at end of turn, Tishana's Tidebinder only cares at the time the trigger resolves about what the current characteristics of the object are. So you wipe out the abilities in their creature land that they attacked you with that had a triggered ability.
Amazing.
So they end up with a abilityless land.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's
What a
not.
thing.
It's very. Tishana's Tidebinder does a lot of strange stuff.
Truly worthy of a number 1 spot this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, some of these were just how much I was irritated at them, and some of them, like Amalia, is not a comp rules problem. It's a policy problem in the MTR, and there is comp rules on loops, but there's the MTR stuff is where we care about, like whether or not you're stalling. But yep.
Well, dear listeners, I hope that your brains are still intact after this brain-bending segment.
Thank you so
Judge
much, Rob.
You're welcome.
And you know, I'd like Tishana's Tidebinder, therefore we are dead. Thank you for this. Therefore,
We put 10 chapters on the saga and removed its abilities.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
Our abilities have been removed.
Our ability to podcast.
Our abilities
Removed.
They have been removed.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Good Luck High Five and having this wonderful walk back through 2023 with the most confusing cards printed this year. Rob, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You normally don't get to stay for our end segment, but but you get to this time.
Yeah, you trapped me.
Well, it's back in the cage after this. So.
I know. It's a problem.
But don't worry, I've got some iceberg lettuce coming your way later.
Iceberg lettuce. You usually give me romaine.
Well,
Oh, no.
I thought even less taste might suit you today.
That's fair.
After what you've done to us
After what you've done with this segment.
How could you? This is truly fascinating, and I do like to go over this stuff because people love the weird and wacky things cards can do in Magic, and these are certainly weird and wacky that you brought to us this year. Everybody, next episode is our Crimbies episode, which we're very excited to bring you to award the best of and the worst of 2023. And we've got a date now to tell you about for the release of Good Luck I5's very first Commander video.
Yeah.
Which we're so excited to bring you.
It'll be this Friday.
This Friday, 7 p.m. Central. It is going to have a live premiere on YouTube. So put it on your calendars now if you want to join us for the live premiere, which is really fun because we are all in the chat talking about it as you get to watch it for the first time. Mm-hmm. So Rob will be there.
Yep. It's Friday the 22nd, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Friday the 22nd. Come in, hang out, and watch the video with us. Have a great time. Rob dressed very festively for the video.
Yes.
It's true.
We all did.
We all did, and Rob especially did.
Yeah. It was my birthday weekend.
Yeah.
True.
So
happy birthday as well, Rob.
Thank you.
And thank you one more time to all of our patrons.
Yes.
To Aston, Marco, Alex, Jeff, and Braille Whale.
Thank you.
To all those are for new or increasing pledges. And thank you again to all of our patrons.
Yeah, you can become a new patron before our next episode, The Crimbies, by going to patreon.com/GLHF Magic. Thank you as well to Card Kingdom. You can check them out at cardkingdom.com/GLHF. And thank you to everybody at Wizards of the Coast who prints these weird cards that we don't understand what they do. And speaking of weird cards, thank you to MagiKids. For helping everybody out this year.
Yeah.
And thank you to Rob for bringing us numbers about how many people they helped.
Yeah. It's thousands of kids. It is so good.
So cool.
If you need to
So
get rid of
cool.
bulk, contact them. They'll help you out.
Yeah, we will accept it and then turn it into useful, fun things for kids.
Rob, what are you looking forward to in 2024 Magic-wise?
2024, I'm going to be judging on the Pro Tour for the first time in a while.
Wow!
So,
Very exciting.
I'm going to be judging the Pro Tour at MagicCon Chicago. And so we get to see you, hang out with you.
Yes.
There. And,
Very exciting.
Yeah. And then there's a bunch of stuff going on in the Magic world in the next year. There's certainly going to be another CubeCon. Date hasn't been announced yet, but that's going to be exciting.
People loved that this year.
Yeah, it was a huge, great event. And so there's just a lot of good things going on in the Magic world for events, which is the kind of stuff that I do. So
Awesome.
Well,
we'll
Rob,
see you out there.
See you out
You
there.
can see Rob out there.
Yeah.
see me at the Pro Tour.